Hello everybody and welcome back to Real Tom Football. I'm Real Tom and I'm going to bring you a video today in which is the Premier League Game Week 8 predictions, of course, due to the Queen's unfortunate death last Thursday, exactly 1 week ago today. She passed away, unfortunately, so we missed Game Week 7, so we moved straight into Game Week 8. Of course, our commiserations are completely with the royal family due to that unfortunate passing of Elizabeth. So we'll move straight into it. We're not going to mess about. We'll start off with Aston Villa versus the fabulous Saints, we have to say. They're Southampton. We're going to talk about Southampton because Southampton, well, in all honesty, have had not the worst start to the season at all. Villa, one of the worst starts to the season ever. They got an important draw to Man City, but then and their only win came against Everton 2-1. They lost their first game 2-0 to Bournemouth. Then they lost 3-1 to Crystal Palace, 1-0 to West Ham, 2-1 to Arsenal. With the Southampton, a huge 2-1 win against Leicester. Let's not forget that 2-2 draw with Leeds as well after they had to come back. Unfortunately, that was 1-0 to Manchester United, but then a humongous home win against Chelsea and an unfortunate 1-0 defeat to Wolves. So 2 humongous wins there for Southampton. And do you know what? I really can't see Aston Villa getting anything from this, and I can't see Southampton I can't see faulting them tomorrow night. And for that reason, I've gone for Aston Villa 0, Southampton 1. Slightly adventurous, but I think that Southampton can do this. I think they've been in a good enough form to get themselves a win. I think that this Southampton might just grab a result. Yeah. Because those 2 wins are standout wins. Positive wins. They show you what a Southampton Football Club are all about. You know, they never give up. They always dig in. And they dug the heels in against Chelsea. They dug the heels in against Leicester and got 2 absolutely huge wins for themselves. We'll move on to Nottingham Forest versus Fulham now. Nottingham Forest versus Fulham. It is a clash that you used to see a lot. Seeing a lot if you used to watch the Championship. And Forest not been in the greatest of form in the Premier League. I mean, Forest have lost the last 3. They had a good start to the season, but they lost their first game, and then they won 1-0 against West Ham, and then drew 1-1 to Everton. But then it was a 2-0 defeat to Tottenham, a 6-0 defeat to Manchester City away, and then a 3-2 home defeat, unbelievably, to AFC Bournemouth after being 2-0 up. Bournemouth made an incredible comeback, and that will be spoken about in a couple of minutes' time. But yeah, Fulham, absolutely superb start to the season. Drew 0-0 to Wolves, got a 2-2 draw against Liverpool, beat Brentford 3-2. They lost 2-1 to Arsenal, but put in a really good performance. And then they beat Brighton & Hove Albion 2-1, which I thought was just absolutely class. They nearly came back against Tottenham, and they lost 2-1, unfortunately. And you know what? This has got Fulham written all over it. Nottingham Forest 0, Fulham 2. And moving on to Wolves versus Man City. Now, Wolves have, in my opinion, had the second worst start to the season. Wolves, in the last game, they normally do quite well against City, actually, Wolves, but they lost 5-1 at Molineux last time out. They haven't lost many. There's been too many draws though. 0-0 against Fulham, 0-0 against Bournemouth, 1-1 against Newcastle. I think all 3 of those games, if you look at it from a Wolves at the start of last season, odd wins all out of all 3 of those. And the 1-0 defeat to Tottenham, they were dominating for so long, but then just like that, Harry Kane ruins it. They did get their first win of the season against Southampton, which I thought was merited. They had a good performance. But Wolves, not had a great start to the season. And normally I'd say 1-0 for this, but based on their form and based on City's form. I'm going Wolves 0, City 3. I could just see Haaland bagging a hat-trick here against the Wolves side who really hasn't started this season well, and a City side who may have had two not depressing, just disappointing draws to Aston Villa and Newcastle. Yeah, 3-0. I'm going for that. We'll move on to, personally, probably the game you'll find most shocking with my prediction next. It's Newcastle versus AFC Bournemouth, and I've gone by the stats. Now, Newcastle United, lots to talk about with them. No wins at the last 5. Draw, loss, draw. 0-0 against Brighton, 3-3 against City, 1-1 against Wolves, then they lost 2-1 to Liverpool after having a great performance, and then drew 0-0 to Crystal Palace. Personally, I thought they should have lost to Crystal Palace. But they've not, draws is okay, but not the best. Now, Bournemouth. Job done. Dusting their hands off. We beat Villa 2-0 first game of the season. Then we have to go to the Etihad. And we lose 4-0. That's expected. We're at home to Arsenal. We expect to lose. We lost 3-0. We go to Liverpool. We weren't expected to lose 9-0, but we expected to lose. All 3 of those games that AFC Bournemouth have lost are games that you would expect AFC Bournemouth to lose. So I am not going to put Bournemouth... I'm not going to judge Bournemouth off of their losses, because those losses are losses that you would expect against 3 gigantic Big Six sides who have both, of all 3 of them, 2 of which definitely have been superb for many years, and 2 of them have been spot on this season. So yeah. And then the 0-0 draw against Wolves, I thought, well done for holding out against Wolves, Bournemouth. Well done. And then the 3-2 win against Nottingham Forest. I thought this was absolutely incredible to come from 2-0 down against the Nottingham Forest side, who haven't been that bad but have not been the best, and to win 3-2 away from home without your full crowd. After those 3 depressing defeats and that draw, well done to Bournemouth. And also the stats in this game quite clearly show you that AFC Bournemouth have a knack of winning away from home against Newcastle United. They have never won against Newcastle United at at home, but their 2 wins out of the 8 played have come at St James's. And you know what? I'm backing Bournemouth here. Fair play to them. They've not been that bad. I'm not going to judge them off 3 defeats to 3 good sides. So, Newcastle 1, Bournemouth 2. And we'll move on to Spurs versus Leicester. Now, Leicester definitely by a million miles have been the worst team this season so far. They've just not been at it at all. They've only drawn 1, and that was their first game of the season, but then they lost 4-2 to Arsenal, they lost 2-1 to Southampton, they lost 2-1 to Chelsea, lose to Manchester United, and then an embarrassing 5-2 defeat away to Brighton and Hove Albion. And all of those, well, at least, I mean, you should be beating Southampton, and you probably should be getting a result against Brighton, and maybe even Manchester United, but no, Leicester City, 1 point. And I can't see 1 point Leicester City hurting 0 losses Spurs. Spurs 4, Leicester City 0. They're going to get battered, Leicester. And they need to sack Brendan. It's time for Brendan to go. It's time for a change. You know, if Chelsea do that, something like that to Thomas Tuchel, Brendan Rodgers deserves the same, right? So, yeah. And finally, I've deleted Everton versus West Ham 1 second. So yeah, we'll move on to Brentford versus Arsenal. That is a 12 o'clock kickoff. And we did beat them in the last game at home, 2-1. 2-1. But this season we've been, you know, after the 2-0 defeat, we've changed. We've had a great start to the season. We're still top of the league. You know, 1 point ahead of Man City. And I'm thinking, well, There's a chance that Brentford could do something to us, and there's a chance we could lose top spot. But actually, when I look at this from a perspective of Arsenal, what can I say about losing at Old Trafford? Arsenal are a team who just do not like Old Trafford. We've played better performances at Anfield. Something about Old Trafford just scares Arsenal. So I'm not going to, I hate the fact that we lost 3-1. I hate it. It scarred me. But I'm not going to judge over that. And I am going to go no clean sheet, because I think Brentford will score and put a contest on. But I'm going to go for Brentford 1, Arsenal 3. So 3-1 to Arsenal there. And we'll finish off with Everton 1, West Ham 1. And that is pretty much it. That sums it up. We've got 7 games on this weekend. I'll be doing 5 of them live for you this weekend. So make sure you stay tuned for that. All have a wonderful day. Enjoy the rest of your week. And we'll see you tomorrow for Friday Night Football. Bye, folks. I'll leave a like and subscribe as well. Helps out. Costs